feel confident in being able to handle an interpretation service need. So we want to show you, we'll have the vendors speak to you today about being able to see what it looks like, understand how it impacts both you as the individual staff person, as well as the claimant, the customer that you are servicing. So our vendors today are Language Line Solutions and Ad Astra.
All right, excellent. And so we can move it right along to just kind of covering, we know we have folks from several different areas, and so we want to just cover what, who is required to use the vendors. And so we know we know that our state staff is required to use Language Line Solutions for in-person interpretation. And so that is that telephonic interpretation, which is best used for those unscheduled customer just calls, customer just walks in, unexpected visits. And so just knowing that if you are not state staff, you may use Language Line and access the state's contract, or you can use another provider. Just knowing that the language access plan does require the use of providing that service. And as far as in-person interpretation goes, and that's kind of that face-to-face in-person interpretation or a virtual setting, right? If you were to have a virtual meeting with a customer, we can also have that in-person touch point. And so knowing that, again, if you are state staff, you are required to use our vendor contract with Ad Astra. And then anyone who is not state staff, obviously you may use the state's contracted vendor Ad Astra, or access another provider for that in-person interpretation. And so again, we're reviewing, in-person interpretation is good for those scheduled visits, the customer's coming, and it is obviously can provide, a better customer experience when, the interaction may be a little bit longer than just kind of a brief telephone call or brief kind of getting to know information. And so we're going to kick it right over to Daniela. Real quick, if you would like to ever schedule training, just a reminder, let us know. You can contact either of us, myself, or Imani, depending on where you work. So if you work for the Division of Unemployment Insurance, Imani is your gal. And if you work for DWDAL or our partner organizations, I am your gal. And so just knowing if you ever needed additional training on providing language access, we are your go-to. So please connect with us on that. And now we will kick it over to Daniela to kind of cover Language Line and telephonic interpretation. Take it away, Daniela.
Yay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Daniela. I usually go by Danny or Daniela, either way. It's okay. A quick introduction. I've been with the company for 15 years already. I used to be a Spanish interpreter in the legal and medical field. I joined our customer service team for about 4.5 years, and I've been working on the government side along with Joe, who will be the main point of contact that Joanna has been working on. So I joined the team July last year. So I love being here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. If we can move to the next slide, please. We do have a quick agenda today. We'll go over why working with an interpreter, how we're the industry's most dependable partner, and how to identify the preferred language a limited English proficient person, speaker in LEP, how to access an over-the-phone interpreter, and how to partner and effectively work with an interpreter. I know Q&A is listed at the end, but if you have any question at any time, please post it on the chat or raise your hand. I'll be happy to go over your questions. If we can move to the next slide, please. So why working with the interpreter? It improves customer service. It builds a loyalty bond between you and your customer, as you will be able to communicate effectively with your customer in their preferred language. Also, it reduces the risk associated to any lack of communication. And of course, my personal favorite, it provides equal access to everyone, regardless of their gender, race, education. Everyone will have the same access to communication. If we can move to the next slide, please. So Language Line, we currently have over 20,000 interpreters, and we are the partner for 13 of the top 14 medical facilities within the United States, 18 of the top 20 insurance companies. We are contracted with 8 of the top 10 commercial banks within the US, and we are the partner for thousands of government agencies and organizations, along with nonprofits. We can move to the next one, please, Joanna. Thank you. Very well. It identified the language preference. I know maybe some of you have already worked with an interpreter. Can you raise your hand if you have? So it's easy. Well, because everyone here in this meeting speaks English. So as soon as you hear something different, then you will identify, okay, this person needs assistance. There is a language barrier. So we can ask the person, what language do you speak? Most of the times they will be able to tell us, or they'll be able to tell us the country they're coming from. Sometimes they will not be able to let us know. So if that's the case, we do have some tools available. We do have a poster, we have a desktop display, language ID card, as you can see here. These are just support materials that provide a list of languages along with the message, point to your language, an interpreter will be called, and the interpreter is provided at no cost to you. So if the person is coming into your office, you immediately identify there's a language need, you can show them one of our guides. They can point to the language and you can give us a call. But what if the person is calling you over the phone and the language is not identified? We can still assist. Joanna, we can go to the next one, please. So when you need to connect with an over-the-phone interpreter, you will have access to our toll-free number, which is 1-866-874-3972. Upon dialing this number, you're going to hear our standard greeting. Thank you for calling Language Line. Please provide your client ID. So the client ID is a 6-digit ID that identifies your division. So for state staff, you may obtain this information from your division's language access coordinator, as well as the access code mentioned in point 4. So you would dial our toll-free number. You will enter your client ID number. At this moment, you will make your language selection. So you will select either 1 for Spanish or 2 for other. If you need another language, press 2, clearly state the name of the language. But what if you are not sure on the language? Rather than pressing 1 or 2, just press 0. When you press 0, we'll get a live agent on the line, and our agents will be able to assist in identifying the language needed and getting the interpreter for you. Once the language has been selected, you will be asked to provide an access code, which will be provided to you from your division's language access coordinator, and you will be connected to an interpreter. When the interpreter comes to the line, they will introduce themselves. They will say, thank you for calling Language Line Solutions. This is Daniela, Spanish ID number 123456. Is the customer with you, or would you need me to call them for you? So this is their standard greeting. They're going to provide you with their name, their ID number, the language they speak, and they will always ask if the customer is with you or if you need assistance with a dial-out. So we can go to the next slide, please. So in case you're in your office, you hear your phone rings, you pick up and you can identify you have a limited English proficient person on the line. Let them know, please hold for an interpreter. Even though your customer is not fluent in English, or his or her knowledge is very little or no knowledge at all in English, they will be able to at least identify, please hold, or hold for an interpreter. So this will let them know that you're getting someone to assist on the call. So when you receive the call, let them know, hold for an interpreter, and using your conference hold button, you'll follow the same steps as before. Dial our toll-free number, entering your client ID, making your language selection, entering the access code, and the interpreter will be connected to the line. So go ahead and brief the interpreter, let them know you have a customer on the line, and you need to find out how can you assist them, and bring the LEP on the line. We recommend you brief the interpreter first before merging the call, because if you do it right when the interpreter picks up, then your customer will hear that exchange between you and the interpreter and maybe like trying to step in. So introduce yourself to the interpreter first, and once you have briefed the interpreter, bring your LEP on the line so you can continue with the call. If we can go to the next slide, please. And remember how I told you the interpreter's introduction, how they offer if to place a call if you need it. Well, this is the scenario. So let's say you have a list of customers you need to call, you need to review something specific with a customer, and you know that you have to call them. Go ahead and give us a call first, get the interpreter first on the line, and the interpreter will actually be able to place that dial out for you. So you don't have to be putting the call on hold in conference. We want to avoid that for you. So get the interpreter first on the line. When the interpreter comes to the line, you may let them know, interpreter, I need you to dial this number. I need to talk to this person. In case there's a voicemail, please leave them this message. I always recommend you give a message before the interpreter dials. That way, when the interpreter dials the number for your LEP, if they get the voicemail, they will leave the message right away. And that will avoid that interaction to be recorded on the voicemail. Like, oh, we got a voicemail. Would you like to leave a message? Yes, please go ahead and leave this message. So we want to give the message ahead of time to the interpreter, so that way they will have it ready. Okay, do we have any questions so far? Okay, if we can move to the next slide, please. And finally, a few tips on working effectively with the interpreter. Always introduce yourself, state the goal of the encounter, something brief. So let them know, yes, interpreter, this is Imani. I need to go over this with my customer. This is just to change the mindset of the interpreter, because like I mentioned, we have over 20,000 interpreters. So it's very likely that the interpreter that will assist you on one call is coming from a different kind of call. So by introducing yourself and just stating the goal of the encounter, we make that switch in their mind, and they'll say, oh, okay, so this is this kind of call. Remember that you are the matter expert on the conversation. So you're the driver of the conversation. You know where to go and how to get there. So the interpreter is only there to assist you with communication, essentially repeating what you say in English into the target language and what is replied to be interpreted back to you in English. Always use first person at all the time. Talk directly to your customer. How are you today? How can I assist you? So just as if it would be just you and your customer, even though the interpreter is there assisting. And also avoid going over very long renditions, very long segments. Try to do about 3 to 5 sentences at a time and pausing at the end of your thoughts. So this will allow the interpreter to interpret accurately the message that you are relaying. Avoid any jargon, any slang, and complicated terminology. And if there's any point during the call that you feel the customer did not understand something very well, rephrase it, or you can explain it in a different way. And if you want to do like a knowledge check, just ask the customer to repeat the information back to you. If you ask Oh, did you understand? Most of the time, the customer is just gonna nod their head, like saying, oh, yes, yes, but they may still have a little doubt. So we just want to make sure everything is conveyed accurately. And finally, remember that everything the interpreter hears is going to be interpreted. Why? The interpreters are trained to interpret what they hear. So if you're in your office, let's say Imani is on the call with an interpreter, and a customer, Joanna, comes in and, oh, Imani, this. The interpreter doesn't know that that's just a private interaction between Joanna and Imani. In case you need to have the interaction, we're not saying you cannot, but just let the interpreter know. So the interpreter knows, okay, this is time to make a little pause. Let them know, interpreter, I'm going to place you on a brief hold. I'll be right back with you. That way, the interpreter is on that place, knowing that, okay, this is not for me to be interpreted. You come back, interpreter, let's continue, and then proceed with the call. So just keep the interpreter on the loop, as the interpreter is on the phone, is not knowing what's going on in your surrounding. And finally, as a best practice, every interpreter that you get on every call is going to provide you with their name and their ID number. So if we recommend that you document this information, or even at least the ID number. We can look everything with the ID number. So if you are tight on time, just make note of the ID number. If you cannot, take note of the name as well. If we can move to the next slide, please. Thank you.
So we're just going to do a brief demo of the kind of maybe three main interactions for which, you may use language line. One would be, a customer coming into the center and you would access language line with the customer in person. One might be you need to place an outbound call, as Daniela mentioned, and connect the customer to the call with the interpreter. Or you may get a call from the customer and then need to connect with language line. And so this video is kind of go over those three scenarios. And so it's about maybe 5 minutes long, so not too crazy. And then we'll kind of kick it back to Daniela to kind of finish off the information. So let's get this going here. Let's see, I think I have to play it from my other monitor.
For more than 30 years, Language Line Solutions has been enabling communication and empowering relationships in healthcare, government, insurance, utilities, and other business environments. Here are three scenarios that demonstrate how Language Line Solutions over-the-phone interpreting service can assist you in communicating effectively with limited English proficient individuals. In this first scenario, a limited English proficient individual is face-to-face with a representative.
你好，我要中文翻译。
Okay, hang on one second.
Welcome to Language Line Solutions. If you are using a Language Line dual handset phone, please press the white client ID button now. Otherwise, enter your 6-digit client ID followed by the pound sign. For Spanish, press 1. For all other languages, press 2. Please speak the name of the desired language.
Mandarin.
I understood Mandarin. If this is correct, press 1.
Hello, this is Jennifer Shea.
Mandarin interpreter 55555. Is your customer already with you, or do you need me to place a call?
Hi, Jennifer. I have the customer here with me, and she's holding the other handset.
喂，您好，我叫 Jennifer， 我来帮您翻译。
Hello, ma'am. What can I do for you today?
您好，请问女士，您今天需要什么服务？
对，我刚收到一封信，有问题想问，你可以帮我吗？
I need to talk to someone about a letter I received.
Okay, I can help you out with that.
我会很乐意为您服务。
When you are face-to-face with a limited English proficient individual, you can access a language line interpreter from any phone you have within reach. You also have the option of using a language line dual handset phone, as you just saw in this scenario, or a dual handset cordless phone, or a splitter with an additional handset that you can connect to your office phone. Next, we will see a similar scenario, but this time the limited English proficient individual receives a call from a representative.
Welcome to Language Line Solutions. Please enter your 6-digit client ID. For Spanish, press 1. For all other languages, press 2. Please speak the name of the desired language.
Mandarin.
I understood Mandarin. If this is correct, press 1.
Hello, this is Jennifer Shea, Mandarin Interpreter 55555. Is your customer with you, or would you like me to place a call?
Hello, Jennifer. My name is Nathan, and I need your assistance in placing a call to a Mandarin-speaking customer. Her cell phone number is 222-333-4444, and her name is Miss Chai.
Certainly. I'd be happy to assist you. One moment, please.
喂，
喂，您好，请找蔡女士。
我就是。
蔡女士您好，我叫 Jennifer， 我是翻译。线上有位 Nate 先生想找您说话。
好，谢谢。
Go ahead, Nate.
Hello, Miss Chai. My name is Nate, and I'm calling to follow up on the letter that we sent last week.
蔡女士您好，我叫 Nate， 我打来是有关于上礼拜我们有给您的信件。
好，你说吧。
Okay, what would you like to know?
In this last scenario, we will see the limited English proficient speaker calling to speak to a representative.
Hi, my name is Nate. How can I assist you?
Mandarin.
Please hold.
Welcome to Language Line Solutions. Please enter your 6-digit client ID. For Spanish, press 1. For all other languages, press 2. Please speak the name of the desired language.
Mandarin.
I understood Mandarin. If this is correct, press 1.
Hello, this is Jennifer Shea, Mandarin Interpreter 55555. Is your customer with you, or would you like me to place a call?
Hello, Jennifer. I have a customer on the line. When I connect the call, please ask her name and what I can do to help her.
I'd be happy to assist you. 喂，您好，我叫 Jennifer， 我将为您翻译。请问您的名字以及能如何为您服务？
你好，我叫周蔡。我今天早来呢，是因为我收到了一份信，有问题想问。
My name is Joelle Chai. I am calling because I received a letter and I have a question.
Okay, I can help you with that.
好的，很高兴能为您服务。
Headquartered in Monterey, California, Language Line Solutions provides interpreters in over 200 languages, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, giving you the confidence in your ability to communicate effectively with the limited English proficient population you serve. Language Line Solutions, enabling communication and empowering relationships. For more details, call us at 1-800-752-6096 or visit us on the web at languageline.com. For more than 30 years, Language Line Solutions has been enabled.
It does that every time. There we go.
Thank you, Joanna. And well, finally, the reason why I advise it's a good practice to document the interpreter's name and the ID number is in case there's any situation that may have happened during a call, if you had a long connect time, if you would like to provide a commendation, if there's any sort of complaint, anything that you wish to let us know on a specific call. We have a voice of the customer process, which is our comment and feedback process. The voice of the customer can be submitted through our website, or you can give us a call at our customer care number, 800-752-6096, and one of our customer service representatives can take the information for you. So let us know. We want to know everything. If you have a commendation, we of course want to know if there's anything that didn't go as you planned. Let us know as well. Every time we receive a voice of the customer, we perform an internal investigation, so the matter is reviewed by a team of experts, and a resolution will be sent out within the next 72 business hours. Finally, on the next slide, you will have both of our contact details. Joe Matthews, like I mentioned, he is the Strategic Account Executive for the state of Maryland. He's the main point of contact. He couldn't be here today because he's actually traveling. He's out in Tennessee, meeting some of his clients. So whenever he's out of the office, I am in. If there's any question at any time, feel free to email us or give us a call. We'll be happy to assist. Thank you all.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you, Daniela. And so as we mentioned in the beginning, if you have any questions for Daniela, we can you can pop them in the chat, or you can save them for when we go to our Q&A. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing now and invite Chris Elsnick from Ad Astra. Chris, are you on the call?
Hey, Joanna.
Hey,
everyone.
Chris.
I'm
Excellent.
here, and thank you very much. I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Yep, awesome.
Great presentation, by the way, Daniela.
Thank you very much, Chris.
All right, everyone. Joanna, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. I think we're good to go.
All right. Thanks so much. All right. Well, everyone, my name is Chris Elsnick, and I represent Ad Astra. I'm one of the client success managers, specifically dedicated for the state of Maryland. And so we'll get this presentation going. So a little about us. Ad Astra has been in business for over 10 years, and I've been with the company. This is going to be my 8th year coming. And basically about me, I started as like a scheduler in the beginning and worked my way up to now like managing accounts, as I mentioned, for the state of Maryland, some other federal contracts as well. And we do provide services for states all across the country, but my main focus is state of Maryland. And Ad Astra provides language services. It's for spoken languages. As Joanna mentioned, the state of contract is for on-site, but especially with COVID, a lot of requests that became problematic with maybe someone not wanting to go on-site, transition to virtual, or a same-day request. Maybe that was a rush request, emergency, would maybe be a backup plan, would be a virtual request. But our primary goal is to provide you with an on-site interpreter. It's not under the state of Maryland, but we also do provide ASL services like we do all across the country, both on-site and virtual. And Ad Astra operates 24/7, 365 days a year. No matter what, you'll always get a phone call or email, no matter what time of day or night. We have people on call, as well as a steady group of about 10 project managers for both the interpreting side and document translation side. So I'll go to the next slide. Basically, our mission is representing the community, bridging that gap, making sure everyone has language access. No one's left out. This basically means providing high quality language services that serve the mission critical needs for corporate entities, government, and organizations to enable better and more effective communication for their non-English and ASL audiences. Basically helping bridging that gap to the community. All right. So like that first point, dedicated project managers and client success managers like myself, you'll always have, if you send in email requests, get a phone call, you'll always be followed up by a dedicated project manager. They'll be handling your requests specifically. If they happen to be out of the office, they have a backup partner, and they'll be able to constantly keep you updated with the status of your request. And response time, we're very proud on that. 10 minutes should be no more than 10 minutes that you'll wait on a response. If you send an email to our interpreting department, translation department, we really pride ourselves on response time and just updating our clients, even if it's not the greatest news, always keeping you updated and keeping you in the loop constantly. And that third point, just accurate translation and on-time deliveries. We do not do machine translation. Every translation, I'm talking about document translation right now, is done by a human being, a vendor. They'll have that human touch, review, editing. So assure you, you're going to have the highest quality of translation services. No Google translation is basically what I'm saying. as well as we pride ourselves on response time, fulfillment as well. We love hearing positive feedback. In my role as a CSM, Client Success Manager, unfortunately, it does most of the time when if someone comes to me, it may be bad news, but or something I need to address and fix. But it's always great to hear all the positive and good news that maybe clients don't always come to us. You don't always hear the good news, but we love that positive feedback, and I'm very proud of that. Great fulfillment rates that we have to meet at least 96% or above on the majority of all of our contracts. And we are very proud to always meet those numbers, and our recruiting department continues to increase those numbers to make sure we have a full stock of interpreters, both on site and virtual. So languages, we have over 250 languages, core languages, non-core languages, indigenous languages that maybe a handful of people speak around the world. And again, I want to pat our recruiting team on the back for that. Some indigenous languages that come through that sometimes you're first time hearing about this language, and I go to my recruiting department and thrilled to know that they have someone already in the pipeline. So Ad Astra can perform interpretation services both on-site and virtual. Move on to the next slide. So on how to schedule on-site requests, pretty basic. There's one, and this is all preference to the client. Step one, this is probably the most popular one, is just emailing the interpreting team directly. This interpreting email address is where 10 of our project managers manage this, as well as the team leads. And so they're just responding within 10 minutes, keeping you updated. You just email all the request details, which will be coming in an incoming next slide, on what you need to provide to make sure that we provide you the best fit candidate of interpretation. Next, calling. There's our phone number right there, and 301-408-4242. There's a series of options. Just hit 2 and you'll get one of those 10 project managers. Typically, this is best used for same day request, just to make sure this is on the top of their list. Calling, typically though, then they follow up with an email, but just to make sure that it's on our radar. And then the third one is something where you all will have access to the scheduling portal, Schedule Interpreters, the name of our platform. And I will be able to, like it says right there, but you can always contact me, and I'll provide your credentials, username, password, and the link. And you can go in and manually enter your request, all the details. And you can also check in on the status of that, if it's filled, unfilled, who the interpreter's name is. And then it's even very helpful for if those are doing accounting reports. There's all different report features that you can calculate on there, run up, and I would be more than happy to jump on a call and just educate and teach you on how to build those reports. But this, a lot of our clients, I'll say option 1 and 3 are the most popular. The clients really like getting into the system, very user-friendly platform. And so these are the details that I mentioned in the prior slide that you would need to provide to place the request. Basically all mandatory if you're going to enter it yourself. But basically just date, time, estimated duration. The state of Maryland contract has a 2-hour minimum. So even if you schedule, say, for 1 hour, a Spanish interpreter, that interpreter is obligated to stay up to 2 hours. So date, time, estimated duration, obviously language, location, just that on-site address. And if it's virtual, the location, there's just a feature to put a, say, Zoom link, Google Meets link, name and phone number of the on-site staff member, just to make sure if hopefully the interpreter's not running late due to traffic, or maybe they're just out front of an apartment building and don't have access to get in. They'll have that point of contact number to make sure we get you connected with the interpreter and the client. Name of the customer, that would be the limited English speaker. Language as mentioned, and just description of appointment. This helps us find the best fit candidate. Court, medical appointment, maybe the nature of the medical appointment. And that just helps our schedulers identify an interpreter that best fits this appointment. And any other details that is helpful. There's also a section where if you develop a rapport with a certain interpreter, you can say, hey, I would like to request Jane Doe. And then make maybe a reoccurring request. You want to keep that same interpreter, or perhaps maybe a male only or female only case. That's another thing that a lot of clients put in the project manager notes. And I don't know if I need to open this video. I know, I believe Joanna mentioned, already acknowledged that everyone will have access to these slides. But it's a 4-minute, 28-second video on just how to access our schedule interpreter platform, and just step-by-step on all the details to put in. Just very informative. And we also have the same video for document translation services. So I will go on to the next one. So Daniela mentioned her colleague was in Tennessee. My other colleague is actually in Tennessee. So I'm interested to know if maybe they're at the same conference. He's in Nashville, but I work side by side with him. He kind of does handle mostly new business, new state of Maryland clients, and all other states. And I'm the client success manager mainly for existing business and the current clients that we deal with. And there's both of our extensions, email addresses. On the right, our general phone number, headquarters in Silver Spring, Maryland. But luckily we are allowed to all telework now these days from COVID. Still go in the office once or twice every once in a while. But you all have access to this contact information. It can email, call me anytime you need. And so I want to thank everyone for being here today. I hope I was educating you all on how we operate. And I look forward to hearing from all of you and working together with you. And I thank you very much, and let me know if you have any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Daniela. Maybe a quick round of applause for, if we have some reaction buttons we can use for both Daniela and Chris. So thank you very much. We can move now to questions. I see the thumbs up. Here come those reactions. Excellent. Thank you. And so great presentations, very insightful and helpful in kind of learning how to access the services when needed for our limited proficient individuals and customers who come through and to access our resources. And so we can move it on to Q&A. I didn't see any questions come through other than asking Language Line, what are the interpreter's hours of operation? And I think that question was answered, right? Both services are available 24/7, 365. And so I did see, I think maybe a hand go up, or did it go back down? I'm not sure, but we can do a little bit of a hand raise feature here now, just to kind of get any questions that you have. Use this time, right, to ask questions of our vendors as it pertains to accessing their services. So any hands for questions? I see Mary Pat.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So what is the typical, if you're trying to schedule an interpreter for maybe next week, what is the usual time it will take to get a person to come, like, let's say, to our office to do interpreting services?
So I'll kick that to Chris.
Yes, thanks, Mary. So I will say we tell our clients the more time the better to in advance to schedule. Depends by the language. If it's Spanish, that's a same day request. We can get that fulfilled right away. Depending if it's an indigenous language, though, that could take a little bit of extra time. With that, I would recommend indigenous language. I would recommend like a week or two, just to be on the safe side. I'll say 2 to be on the safe side at least. And if they say they didn't have that exact time that you needed, we'll reach out to the interpreters, get a bunch of options to whatever hopefully fits your schedule. But I'll say any other language, about a week is pretty fair. But Spanish and those core languages, a couple days.
Okay.
2-3 days, but I'd recommend a week just to be on the safe side.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Looks like great question. Any other questions? Don't be shy. Take this time. Mary Pat, thank
Sorry.
you.
So Joanna, can we get some of those phones that they were showing for
Great question. I can inquire. I'm not sure if that's going to be a yay or a nay, but I can ask. I can surely ask and see what that looks like. But again, knowing that if by chance that's not an option, obviously, you could take someone to kind of maybe a more private room, kind of get a speakerphone going and then kind of have the interaction that way. That's always kind of the next best thing. Or even if it's an option, I didn't even realize where you can have that additional connector just to have an extra maybe receiver. And then that way you kind of mimic that language line phone. So that might be an option. I would say kind of thinking about your centers or your sites or how often you have folks coming through and kind of gauging the need for those type of technology or those types of extra modalities, if you will, and we can kind of go from there. But maybe, yeah, I'll definitely ask, and I can get back to you, let you know.
I'll send you some details, Joanna, so you can have that beforehand, and you can just let me know. Because we can do either the dual handset or we can do like a handset and a splitter, which is cheaper. So I'll send you the details for you to review and make a decision.
Awesome. Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. I see Candice asked if how to get the language selection sheet. And I'll send all the details to you, Joanna and Imani. So if you need to order some of these materials, you'll have the link and you will be able to place the order for as many as you need. Those are provided at no cost. So whatever amount you need, just let us know. We'll make it ready and have it shipped within, we'll ship it and you'll have it within 7-10 business days.
Thank you.
You're
welcome. To see there's another maybe question. I'm going to make sure. Allison says, what if you received a call and could not identify the language needed? So did you want to cover that again?
Oh, yes. Still give us a call. When you get to the language selection, instead of pressing 1 or 2, just press 0. When you press 0, this gets a live agent, human being coming to the line. And I don't know how they do it, but they're super skilled in identifying the language, even by listening a couple of phrases. And they will be able to narrow down the language that you need and get the interpreter on board for you.
So Joanna, I see, I think that's Liliana asking about the cost of services.
So we do have cost sheets. Yeah, we do have like the breakdown for the state's contracted rates. And so we can send that out as a resource to this session as well and have that for everyone to be able to access. Let's see.
And they're asking about a quote. This is Marty G. If they're not with DOL, but but at a college in Maryland, how would they go about getting a quote?
So you can access the state's contract, correct, right, on both sides, right? And so with Ad Astra or Language Line, and so it would be just essentially creating an account if you don't already have one with the vendors. And so additionally, after today, we'll also send you as one of the resources. We have a resource guide for the language access plan, which kind of details all of those details on how to create an account and how to access the services, just like you saw in the slides. And so you'll all have that after the session today and can distribute with staff who would need that information as well to have handy. So hopefully that will help too. Does that answer your question, hopefully, Marty?
Yep, it did. And then we have Grayland. Well, there is Alex. Does Ad Astra and Language Line have a list of languages provided on their website?
So, well, I can speak for Language Line. We do have one. You can go to our website, www.languageline.com. We have a client services tab, and it will give a few different options, and the language lists will be listed right there.
All right.
And for Ad Astra, I'm 99% sure that it is on our website as well. I also have a list of it on my records. So I'll be happy to share that with anyone as well.
Thank you. We have a couple of hand raised also.
Did we get all the questions in chat? I want to make sure there was one from Gerald.
Yeah.
Do you encourage that the client has someone with him or her to further assist in the interpretation process?
Yes.
Any thoughts on? Oh, thank you,
Gerald had his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Is that your question, Gerald, or did additional question?
Yeah, I raised my hand afterwards, but yeah, I wrote that. I've been like assisting with someone who actually did a few of the calls over time in my center. So I was the middleman, the case manager, but not the one who made the call. And what I found out is that sometimes someone would have a family member, et cetera, with him or her, which was beneficial, but I wanted to know if it was something that we could encourage in the event that we had communication to have that before it happens. And of course, many times we don't know if someone's going to bring someone, but what's your gist on that?
So I can take it maybe from our language access plan side, just so since we're kind of governed by that. And while we do allow someone to obviously use their own interpreter, we want to be mindful if that family member or that, whoever it may be is actually qualified to perform that duty. And I preface this, and this was something that we covered in our initial training back in February, is that being bilingual does not, sort of qualify you. And I'm not even going into the certification process, but qualify you as an interpreter. And so we always want to be mindful of that. In trying to access, engage whether or not that person, who they may bring, a family member, friend, whomever that person is able to actually perform the task at hand, which is essentially to interpret everything that's said. And so what happens a lot of times when you do have family members and friends is they come and they try to synthesize what is being communicated back and forth. And that's what we don't want when it comes down to interpretation. And so at times, while someone may have a family member, if you feel like that family member or friend is not able to perform the duty at the max capacity, if you will, I would always encourage that you give them the option or encourage the option to actually have an interpreter either from Language Line or from Ad Astra, partake in the interaction. So that's kind of my take on it. Imani, if you had anything to add, or we can also kick it over to Chris and Daniela, maybe.
That is exactly where I was going with it. Yes.
Okay. All right. Wait a minute. That was a lot of information. So let me try to let me ask a specific question. Is it advantageous or not in general if the client should come by him or herself on the call versus having a family member on the call with us, with you together? I'm not talking about necessarily with me talking with the person on the side. I mean on the actual call.
Well, I think that would be a personal preference. So if that individual feels more comfortable having someone there with them, then that is their preference, and we would not we would not tell them that it's not possible for them to have someone there with them. Now, when it comes to the actual interaction between the agency or the staff person and that client, then we want to make sure that we are, again, making sure we're providing them with the best possible service. And if that means we're getting someone from Ad Astra or Language Line involved, then we should do that. But for the person just being there as a support, that's great. When it comes to the communication between the individual and the staff person, then we want to make sure that we are using a qualified individual to interpret. And to make sure that the person is understands what's being asked of them and can effectively provide a response to that. Does that help, Gerald?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Mhm.
All right. We still have, I believe, Mark and Graylin. Mark had a question in the chat also. Graylin had a question in the chat. Mark, do you want to just ask your question and we'll finish off with Graylin?
Yes. Just a quick question. Will you guys in the future have like a virtual session? So in the event that we wouldn't have to wait for an in-person session and a phone session, something like a Teams or something like this venue if the individual needed assistance virtually.
For services?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to understand the question. Is it can we provide like a virtual interpretation
Yes,
for
so
the customer?
right.
Okay.
So something virtually, right.
Yes, and so Chris did cover that. Chris, if you want to kind of take that again.
Yes, thanks, Mark. So virtually, yeah, we can cover any platform that your preference. The only thing that we do need from your end is the link for the appointment. We don't provide the link, as the client you would be the host, so you would admit the interpreter in. So yeah, definitely any platform you want virtually, we can set that up.
Awesome. And how long would that process take, say, for instance, for Spanish?
So that is super quick and easy. I mentioned on-site Spanish, like we could do that same day. I'll say if you emailed or called, need a Spanish interpreter, we could probably get one within 15 to 30 minutes. All confirmed. We have a very big virtual pool, especially for Spanish, so we would have no issue with that.
Awesome. Thanks.
Anytime. And sorry, Mark, I did say 15 to 30 because I see that, but we do encourage like a little extra time. But if you need an emergency like that, we could cover that.
Okay.
Thanks again.
No problem.
Graylin,
great.
have your hand up?
Great.
Graylin,
Hi,
did you have your hand
Graylin.
up?
Did you still have your question?
If you have unmuted, we cannot hear you. But I do see that you posed a question in the chat. Is that the question that you had for us? Okay. So Graylin in the chat says, if the client is unable to speak when we send their questions by fax and or send handwritten documents. Unfortunately, I don't understand the question. Maybe if you're able to unmute or maybe rephrase in chat.
I thought he was asking if the person is unable to speak, like if they're not able to, I guess, verbalize what their request is or what their questions may be. If they wrote them out, would that be something that we would utilize Ad Astra
And that would essentially be somebody who is in need of maybe like ASL interpretation, so someone who's deaf or hard of hearing? Is that the question, Graylin, or not necessarily? Or
he looks like he's gesturing like yes, possibly.
Okay.
So
That's something that, yes, we could also, I would say an email as well. Like they could send the email to the appropriate the interpreting department, translation, or there is a deaf hard of hearing department I didn't add because it's technically not under the state of Maryland, but it is a service that we do provide for other clients and just quote them on it. But yes, Graylin, that is.
So that is the question that comes up very often when we have our foreign language interpretation and translation sessions. And so while our language access plan covers the foreign language aspect of it, and we do have state vendors and contracts for those types of services for foreign language. Unfortunately, at the moment, the state of Maryland does not have a contracted vendor for American Sign Language or sign language in itself, if someone were to need sign language in another language other than English. However, knowing that, one, yes, we are still required to provide that service, and two, we can choose the vendor of which we would like to access to provide that sign language interpretation. And so we have two viable candidates here that we could access, Language Line or Ad Astra. And so knowing that they both provide that service, and so whomever you would like to contact for that, you're welcome to use these folks. Just being mindful that the state of Maryland does not have a contract for that service, but we will provide that service, and we can choose a vendor. Again, of which we have two folks present today. And if you need additional contacts for those, I have a listing that I can share with folks, and maybe I can just add that to the list of resources just so folks have that as a touch point too. So hopefully that helps to clarify, Grayling. So in the moment too, we could also, access an ASL interpreter in trying to just maybe gauge sometimes, what the need is of the customer. Obviously, writing things down could be beneficial in that quick initial touch point, but then securing an interpreter for future connections with the customer as well. All right, any other questions? I don't see any that have come through chat. However, if we missed it in chat, feel free to pop your hand up if there are any other questions. Looks like I hear boom, boom. I see Marty.
Yeah, so I'm going to be stupid and just ask this. So we have a state contract that because we're doing this from our college with you, I just need to work with you guys and get my account set up and I have access to using these services.
That is correct.
That's absolutely amazing. And I don't know how we've gone this long and didn't know that, but
I don't either, but I'm glad we now know. Yay.
I'm trying to figure out how can we go back and get the college to maybe pay for this so we can wow. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm glad I asked my dumb question and you have made my Thursday. Just amazing.
There are none. You don't ask and you don't know.
Wow.
If you don't ask, you don't know. So I'm glad now we all
That's
are in
fabulous.
the know.
Very much.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, that was not a question, just a pop in chat. Excellent. So hopefully this was helpful. As I mentioned, this session is going to be recorded. We are recording. We have a final culminating activity. And so we have a quick poll just to kind of review what we did. And so if you can access the poll on the bottom of your screen, you'll see the series of 3 shapes, a triangle, a square, and a circle. If you click those 3 shapes, and the second option will say polls. So let's get those polls open and I will launch the first one. And just a quick 4-question poll. It is not the SAT, so this should be very easy for everyone to be able to get 100% on this quick quiz here that we have, just reviewing a little bit of the content that we were shown today and given information about. So I'm going to launch the first poll. First poll says, when accessing Language Line, what 2 codes do you need? Is it A, client ID and access code, B, account number and access code, C, state ID and client code?
Oh, I shouldn't be failing this one, right?
You should not respond in this one, Daniela. But you may if you would like to. Give it another couple of seconds to have that one go through. One, and we will close that out. And so the answer is winner, winner, chicken dinner for A, client ID and your access code. And so if you are state staff, I do have those for you. If you are non-state staff, obviously creating the account with Ad Astra, you would get that client ID and access code provided to you. And so that way you would have that for your reference. So hopefully that's helpful there. We'll pop into the next question. Yay to everyone who got that right. And so question number 2, also about Language Line. If you are unable to identify the language, call Language Line call agents for help. True or false? Give that one another 5 seconds. Excellent. And so we'll close that one out, and everyone was correct. That is true, right? So if you're unable to identify the language and connecting with the customer, call language line. Again, press 0 to get a live agent on the phone who, with their magic, is able to identify the language needed. Excellent. Last 2 questions here, and these are about Ad Astra. So let's go on to the next one. Question number 3. Who is the state's contracted vendor for in-person interpretation? In-person interpretation, mindful of that. Language Line Solutions, Ad Astra, or Language Link? Talking about that in-person interpretation, face-to-face or virtually. We'll give it about 5 more seconds. And we will end that out. And winner, winner, chicken dinner to whoever responded with B, Ad Astra. Ad Astra is our contracted vendor for that in-person touch point, whether it be face-to-face with the client on site or accessing the interpretation through a virtual platform. Language Line Solutions is for that telephonic interpretation, so we will get the interpreter over the phone. Excellent. And our last question today, gonna launch that one. True or false? There are only 2 ways to request in-person interpretation services with Ad Astra. True or false? There are only 2 ways to request in-person interpretation services. Is that true or false? Give that about 5 more seconds. 2, 1. We'll end that poll, and the answer is false, right? There are actually 3 ways, right? We can ask for an interpreter via the email, interpreter at, or is it interpreter? No, what is it?
Interpreting at ad-astrainc.com.
Interpreting at Ad Astra, right? And you'll have those touch points. Or we can call, there's a phone number, or you can access the online portal. In order to get access to that online portal after creating an account, we can request the login information from Chris. So again, knowing that there's three touch points in order to do so. The preferred methods obviously would be the online portal if you're able to do that, or the email address as well, and providing all of that pertinent information. And so thank you everyone again for attending the session. Hopefully it was helpful to you. As we mentioned, the session is being recorded, and of which I will stop now. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop that recording. Let me see if I can open up this box.